We can give them some time to start building. So welcome back. It is Friday, June 21st. I had to take a second look at my computer. It is 2 o'clock. So we are wrapping up our week of tabletop design. And before we get into at least the introduction of what I was going to do today, I want to thank you guys for hanging with us for the week. And I hope you've had some fun building and learning about mechanics and exploring the concepts of game design with us. This is something that I hope you continue with beyond this week, because obviously game design is not something that's meant to do only in 1 week. So as a recap of everything we've done so far, you've learned a little bit about design theory and my concept of how to create a game. There's no right or wrong way. There's efficient and inefficient. And one way that I've found to be at least most efficient is starting with the end in mind and then creating a beginning to bridge to that ending using different mechanics. And the way that you learn about new mechanics is by playing new games. And we've been able to play a couple new games here this week. And I hope that's something you continue to explore going further. We talked a little bit about what mechanics can be used with cards and what mechanics can be used with dice. Talked a little bit about probabilities. And then, of course, we talked about story and how that's important to the overall gaming experience as well. As far as challenges go, I challenged you to create a card game, and then I challenged you to create a dice game. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how cards and dice can blend together. And I'm going to take it back to my very first activity, the top 5 favorites. When I gave you my list, it was baseball, Lego, meatballs, candles, and Stranger Things. If you would have asked me about my favorites when I was in middle school and junior high school and high school, I would have said college basketball was on that list. I really liked basketball growing up, and I was always a big fan of college basketball, in particular the NCAA tournament. The newspaper would put out a bracket. This was obviously pre-internet. The newspaper would put out a bracket, and I would make photocopies, and my friends and I would have contests, before March Madness pools were a thing. So it wasn't a shock when my dad was trying to get me into board gaming. He introduced me to a game called March Madness. March Madness was designed by the Avalon Hill Game Company, and Avalon Hill was a very large publisher of war games. So if you were interested in historical simulations of World War I, World War II, the American Revolution, name a war or military conflict, and there's a board game that replicates it that people can participate in. Well, anyway, Avalon Hill put out some sports games, and my dad showed me March Madness. And it was a pretty good game. And what I decided to do later on was take the concepts of March Madness and tweak them a little bit, because another aspect of game design is taking, excuse me, I got something in my throat. Being sick in the summer is ridiculous. Another aspect of game design is taking a design that's already been made and hacking it, for lack of a better word, changing it up, switching it up, and creating something a little bit different. A lot of game design is mechanical theft, where, ooh, you came up with a really cool mechanic, I'm going to use that in my game. Taking March Madness and just flipping a couple things, that's a concept I would never try to market because it's not my original design, but it's something I made for myself. And it is a marriage of cards and dice, naturally. And I'll show you some of the cards that were made up. Some of the cards are defensive cards, and some of the cards are offensive cards. And you can see the different positions that you can play these cards on. What happens then is when you try to resolve a position, you reference a chart. So Remember I said dice were really just randomizers? So the dice are used to randomize how much a player scores. So a player is given a rating based on how good they are, right? So a double A is going to score more than a C, who will score more than an F. And then along the top, a basic D6 roll, and there's a 0 and a 7. And we'll talk about why here in a second. So you roll the die. Let me see. I roll. Oh, I got a 4. I check the 4 column, and my player scores 10 points or something like that. And you would mark that down on a sheet of paper, and you would track your score going forward. The reason why there is a 7 and a 0, let's say, for example, someone had played this card against me, -2 DRM. DRM stands for die roll modifier. So I'm going to modify the die roll -2. And if I roll a 2, well, 2 minus 2 is 0. That gives me that amount of points. There's a 7 because there's also some cards that give you positive modifiers. So the offensive cards help the offense. The defensive cards help the defense. And then I made a little, it's not little, it's actually pretty big. It's 2 sheets. A sheet where you could track where your cards are being played. There's spot for coaching cards as well. And the track along the top is a mechanic for how much time is left in the game, because basketball has a clock. So we need a clock in the basketball board game as well. That to me it's a fun example of how a game can utilize dice and cards in a cohesive kind of manner, where we didn't take just some so the randomness of dice and put them with cards willy-nilly. There's a sequence that was used through testing to figure out, what kind of die roll modifiers work, how strong should they be, what kind of risk should there be. So for some of the cards, the stronger ones that said -2, you could get a foul on your player, and that hurts your player. So all in all, an interesting kind of simulation. And I know on Monday, I think on Monday, I wasn't here, but Micah or Josh would have talked about a company called the Game Crafter. Game Crafter is an interesting website for putting out your own game after it's been tested and you feel that it's ready. If you have nice looking graphics and things like that, the website will take almost anything. So when I did my hack of March Madness, I wanted to print out a copy and I wanted to call it March Madness. So on the back of the cards, I had created a logo that said March Madness. And the Game Crafter said, no, there are copyright issues. And I didn't realize the words March Madness were copyrighted, must be by CBS. So I just changed the name to Prep Hoops. Same thing. So the Game Crafter did a really nice job of putting the game together and packaging it. So that's a resource for you down the road. The other thing the Game Crafter would do, or would be available for, if you wanted to spend money, is prototype components. So all throughout the week, I've tasked you and challenged you to create prototypes of your card game and your dice game. And I tried to give you the cheapest options available, because there's nothing more frustrating than spending money to test a game to realize, oh, this isn't really good, or there's a lot wrong with this that we have to fix through more components. You want to learn that as cheaply as possible. But the Game Crafter sells things I refer to as bits and bobs, little cubes, little discs, and dice of all kinds. Dice. Oh, I took my other bin away, but like just regular blank cubes, or you could make your own dice with stickers. It's an interesting way to test things. If you want to make custom dice, you can make stickers for them. So the Game Crafter is good for that. The other place that you can go to get prototype materials for board games, thrift stores, the Salvation Army, garage sale, garage sales, if yard sales. Where I live here in Chambersburg, I think Chambersburg is the yard sale capital of the world. On any given Saturday in the summer, there's about 4 dozen yard sales going on, and I never stop just because I never have cash on me anyway. But if you find a place that's selling board games that they don't want, they don't necessarily have to be good board games. Like I'll give you an example. If you go to a thrift store or a Salvation Army, I can almost guarantee you're going to run into a game called Trivial Pursuit. I'm not a big fan of Trivial Pursuit, the game, because I'm not really a big trivia guy. Uh, it feels more like school, like answer this question. But what you'll find in Trivial Pursuit, you get a bunch of plastic, little pieces that you can act as. They can be your army or your workers or whatever. You get at least one die. You might get two. I'm not sure. You get a board that you can just do whatever you want with, and you get some cards that have questions on them that you can use to. You get a post-it note, and you put the post-it note on them. Now you have cards for your game. Um, you probably won't spend more than $1.50 on Trivial Pursuit, and you get a box to put it all together. So that's the other thing. As you start making prototypes, you need a place to put them and a place to store them. So that's another thing you get at the thrift store or board game aisle. So those are just some ideas for you going forward. If this is a a hobby or an activity that you've enjoyed that you want to keep doing. Later on in the stream, I will share with you some resources, some online resources that you can check out for game design and going further into this activity. But what I want to do now, it's 2:15. I wanted to give you guys a chance to wrap up, finish at least the concepts for either your card game or your dice game. And then today's challenge would have been to create a blended card and dice game, even if it's just a concept, even if you didn't get a chance to prototype it out. Go through the brainstorm process, write down some notes. How would you want such a game to end? What kind of mechanics would you use? And if you have time, maybe start building it out and test that as well going forward. Um, I would say maybe in an hour or so, I'll check in and see individually if any of our friends at the libraries want to share some of the work they've done this week. Our 10 o'clock session had some really, really interesting prototypes. It was really fun to see what those kids came up with. I'd love to see what you guys have come up with. So if you want, that option will be there for you. And obviously, no pressure if they don't want to. That's not a problem. Again, I will put my email out in the chat. If you have some pictures of your prototypes that we could blast out on all of our social networks, we'd love to share some of the work that you guys have been able to do with your students. So, all right, that's it. That's the goal for today. Card game, dice game, and if you can come up with one that blends the two together, go through the process. I'll be here if you have questions or comments or want to run an idea by me or just hear me talk some more about whatever. I'll be here. Just give me a holler. All right. So go to it. Have fun designing, and we'll talk to you here in a little bit so you guys can share out. Hey, everybody, we're in about an hour. It's about 3:08, and I've heard from some people in the chat about some of their stuff, and I've been chatting back and forth. So that's that. Um, at this point, if there's anybody who wants to get online and say, hey, this is what we had, I'd love to give you a chance to share out before I send out any of the other online resources that I planned on sharing with you. And anybody out there at all, just you know, wanting to see, I will put some stuff out in the chat. Then maybe while you're getting ready, the first link here is to an organization called the Board Game Designer Forum. So there are some journals out there, and I totally understand, not a problem. There's some journals out there and forums where you can communicate with other designers, which is really helpful. Uh, Honestly, when you are at the testing stage, testing with other designers and you're getting ideas from them is really super valuable. Here's a website here called Cardboard Edison. And Cardboard Edison, I'll tell you, has a lot of resources that are both, visual, like reading, video, uh, ideas for prototyping. There's a newsletter. There's a podcast as well. I haven't listened to the podcast, so I can't. It also looks like it hasn't been updated since 2019, so maybe there's not a podcast. But there is a section for free resources and things like that. The last resource I wanted to share out was Board Game Design Lab. The Board Game Design Lab has a lot of good information for um, just starting out. And if you go to the design theory page, which right there, the design theory section of BGDL has just a bevy of information, and there are a ton of links out there. Some of them, they might not all be active, but this is still a really a good place to start for soon to be designers. These are places that I've used at least for inspiration. The other kind of community that's out there, and this is more, this is when things start to get real. It's an organization called Break My Game. And Break My Game is, if you remember me talking about Unpub, this was a group of designers who would get together and test games. Break My Game is like the new Unpub. They have a Discord community where they just have all kinds of communication and resources. What they say is resources, rule exchanges, game jams, workshops, feedback, designer diaries, all kinds of cool stuff. I'm out there. I participate a little bit. I've been in I've been on panels for game design with the Break My Game folks. Really awesome people who they're there to help. So those are some resources. If this is interesting to you, if game design is something that you think you want to take the next steps in, these are really good resources for you in that regard, and they're free. There's always paid services, but these guys, for the most part, all free, so you can start out learning about, you know, different concepts and different theories. So those are those. If anybody changes their mind out there and they'd like to share, again, I'd love to see what you have. If you wanted to drop me an email with some pictures of prototypes, I'd love to see what you guys have come up with during the week, and offer you a little bit of my feedback. So it's 3:15. We're here for the next 45. So if you're building, cool. If you're playing Roller Don't or Love Letter or some another game that we've played this week, awesome. That's cool too. Uh, just I'll be here if you want to bounce some ideas off me. That's a new record. That's awesome. 233. So I don't know if you remember um the other the other game. I'll find it for you. Clever Cubed, Clever Hot Dry, or whatever. So if you're into that game, there's this, and see if I can find the rules, because like I said, I've never played it. I just found it. Here it is. Here's a rule book, PDF. Check it out. 12 pages, but the pages are like super small. And I'll tell you, you know what? We'll use this because we talked about story. Dice games generally bereft of theme. Not a lot of story involved there. So that's, I think, for the creative writer type in you, if that's your thing, so it's a good challenge. Take a game like That's Pretty Clever or this Clever Cubed, and write a story for the rule book, because there never is one. Um, yeah, 233 is an awesome score. Good deal. Gives you something. Clever Cube gives you something else to shoot for. And I found something else for you, friends at Avalon. Another link coming at you. This is so that's pretty clever. Was number one. Clever Cubed was the third. So there obviously had to be a second. I found it. Bolt So Clever is twice as clever. Same kind of same kind of concept. It looks like we're still rolling six dice here, and the whole die selection mechanic is there. Um, I don't know what each of these are doing. It looks wild though. So the second one, the Brett Spielwelt slash other slash clever, that is the second version. And amazingly enough, these people have just rolled out the clever games. The that link is called Clever Forever. It's the fourth version. So all kinds of if you're into the clever games, uh, they're uh, they're out there for you. I will do some research to try to find the rules for you, so you don't have to just click and try to figure those out. But there they are. You have four different versions of the clever dice game. And I get those rules out for you. You can check them out. Yeah, if you're finished making your game and you've tested it, that's that's what we had for the week. If you'd like to let me see what you got, I'd love to see it if you can. If not, no problem. Um, but that's the week. Make the game and test them, see how they worked.
Um, so I did a game about traveling the world technically, and
Okay.
so you pick up a card and look at it, and it's like a different country, and it like uses elements of that country's culture, and like for example, I had France, and it was like you eat a poisoned croissant, get rid of one coin, or like yeah, so it's like positive or negative.
How do you come across the poison? Are they cards that you draw,
Yeah.
or are they spaces you land on? Okay. So you've
And
got some
the
good and
person
some bad.
So there's all everyone starts with 5 coins, and the person to 20 coins first wins. So it's like a shorter game.
That's great. That's a good end game mechanic that everybody's trying to do something um, before the game wraps up. Very cool. And I like the theme idea, the travel around the world, and you can bring in a lot of real life, like actual culture to a game like this. There's what I call civilization style games that do a lot of that kind of stuff. It's a lot of old history, but um, building up a civilization. Your goal is to travel around, which is I I don't know a lot of games that do that. So that's really good. Awesome. Thank you. So that looks like to be a rule book for the Clever Forever. So those are just links to some, if you enjoyed the Clever game, something else for you to check out and explore. And I'll be here for another 20. If you wanted to talk or share about your game, just let me know. But otherwise, again, thank you for being a part and spending some time with us. Yes. So what I will do, I will have Micah kind of collect all of these and curate them, and we will get them absolutely shipped out. And so all of them from the resources, design, Edison, things like that, as well as every game that we played, Roller Don't, Yahtzee, Love Letter, all those kind of things. If you go to the Love Letter site, actually there's more games there that you can kind of explore and play around with. But yeah, we will absolutely get you those things. Sounds good. Thank you, our friends at Brandywine. I'm just putting together um, a list of links for Micah to send out. So anybody else who has things that's going on as well. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the week. And if anyone ever needs to reach out, want to talk about game design, or have any questions, my email's in the chat as well. So I'm going to get this link up here to Micah. I'm putting it in a table right now so it looks pretty, but I have all the links here for us. But I will hang here for the duration in case anybody else needs something. I added some other games that we didn't get a chance to get into because they didn't kind of fit the mode, called Blockus and Codenames. I've played those online with my students in the past, and they've gone over pretty well. Those are going to be in the link package as well. Yeah, if you're still here, and check it out. There's the link, but I'm gonna have Micah. I'll make sure he sends this out to everybody who took part, and yeah, still prettying it up right now. Maybe not. Thanks, Micah. Well, thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. Stay warm. God, stay wet, stay warm. My computer says it's 95, so stay cool. Try to. All right, I'll tell you what, it looks like it's getting close to that time, so I'm gonna do my wrap up for you. Once again, on behalf of the Video Game Clubs of America and all of us behind the scenes, thank you for joining us for this summer series of tabletop design. I had a good time hanging out with you guys and showing you guys some new games. If there's ever anything we can do to help you or your students in the area of game design, please feel free to reach out. We're an email away. But that's going to do it here for us. I will pop out of here, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you again after later. See you next week. New seminars.